First of all, thank you very much. It's an honor to be back here after being away for 3 years from AUB, graduating. And that text is something that we did not write about ourselves, just to be clear. It sounds a bit pompous, but...
But we didn't write it. We just hired someone to do it for us. Okay, so we don't really know how to really talk about the band the way others would talk about particular projects, because it's sort of been, it's been 6 years. And that's a long time to sort of invest in one thing, and a lot has changed. So we're going to start with how the band sort of started. So in 2004, 2005, Umayya, Haig, and Andre came to the department. The rest of us were not even in AUB yet. And we came in the year after, and the 4 other members of the band actually started their first band together. There are other pictures, but we look like crap, so we chose this blurry one. And this was in 2005, we were freshmen at the time. And then Firas and Carla and I came into the department the year after, which was 2006, 2007, and Brahim went to engineering. And in 2006, the first 3 members of the department posted a flyer saying they wanted to start a music workshop, and they posted it in the department, and it was a really ugly flyer. And some of us responded, and when we started, it was like 15 people that were going in and out of the music room in West Hall in AUB. And it slowly fizzled down to just the 7 of us. We had 2 previous bassists, one of which was from the department, and then they didn't really vibe so well with us, and we ended up with Brahim. And that's when we decided to record the demo. And this was the first album cover and the first very ugly logo for the band.
It's not so bad.
It was pretty bad. Anyway, and this was our first photo shoot, actually, with a local photographer called Ela Hibri, who at this point is extremely talented, but at the time was learning with us, which is why it's underexposed. And then, so basically we recorded this demo, and we sent it to the radio competition that Radio Liban was organizing on a complete whim. And before knowing if we were in the competition or if we were going to win or anything, we had started to slowly, gather like a very small following within AUB of like basically our friends from the department and our families, and they would come watch our gigs. And we played our first concert outside of AUB at this place called Temarbuto, and this was the first poster the band ever had. And then the radio competition happens in 2008. And we win the radio competition. We're supposed to get this record deal with Incognito. Incognito Records at the time had like the greatest artists that were coming out of the country and the region. Like the only stuff that we used to listen to in Arabic was stuff that was coming off of Incognito. Suffice it to say, their audience was a little small, so they actually went broke before they could record our album. And so we recorded it with another studio, with a studio here actually called Beirut. And that's how the first album happened. And basically, you want to stop and talk about the stuff that went into it?
The album?
Yeah. So basically,
Hey.
we had always wanted to be musicians, most of us at least. But we were in AUB doing architecture and design because that was what was sort of easier to conceive a future in.
I don't agree. I started in this department, actually. I was a civil engineer for a year, and I've never imagined that this would happen. So I transferred to, before transferring to architecture, I was like majorless for 3 months, and the war happened. And then George and Leila saved me, and they took me in the department of architecture. And this is how the band happened, and then I noticed that I really love music.
Nuances, Carl, nuances. Anyway, so then basically, I forgot what I was saying. So while we were in the department, we were starting to study about all the stuff that was happening in the region. We were looking at art history classes and design studios and trying to sort of sit down and speak about our creative work for the first time. Granted, it was in another field, but it was all stuff that really ended up sort of affecting how we wrote our own music. With the first album, the way we would try to structure a composition was very much about architecture. and about graphic design more so than it was about music. It was about trying to find balance, trying to find, you know, sort of architectural rhythm more than actual rhythm. We used words like, is this too pastiche? Does this sound too postmodern? We'd make references to surrealists in our lyrics because that was what we were studying. And all of that stuff ended up, you know, sort of informing the way we wrote music and the way we wrote the lyrics.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to note as well that writing music is not something, people usually think of musicians as people who go into a room and have inspiration to write, and it's actually much closer to designing something than, you know, going in and having a spur of the moment idea. And the way the architecture department and the graphic design department informed our music writing and our approach to who we were, our image, the kind of things we would do on stage or how we would present ourselves on stage were a very big part of our first album and early life. I mean, even the videos.
And the process of writing music, of sitting like the seven of us in the same room and discussing ideas and brainstorming on beats, on melodies.
Anyway, so long story short, we recorded the first album, and that's when things started rolling. We had this really big album launch concert in Demco, which was a steel warehouse. And again, this was sort of one of those slightly pretentious things that we ended up doing because we were in the department where we were obsessed with sort of looking at these externalized architectural spaces. Like the inside of that warehouse was completely beautiful. And no one really goes there, but it was really bad for sound. And we did it anyway. And we made it a point to work with as many regional and local artists as we could. So this is Alexandre Polikovic dancing at our first concert. And this was the audience for our very first concert. It completely sold out. We sold all the albums that we printed. And things sort of started rolling from there on. The press started getting bigger. Obviously, this isn't the press from the time, but this is the only stuff that we could find because we're bad with archiving things. So the press started asking us all sorts of stuff. And a big part of the criticism that we would get was about trying to work in Arabic and not looking like a typically Arab musical act. So we didn't have a single star. We weren't making tarab. There was no debke, there was no mijana, there was no ateba. We weren't really about trying to please the largest number of people. And we didn't sound like previous alternative acts. So we didn't sound like Ziad Rahbani, we didn't sound like Sheikh Imam, we didn't sound like any of the people that were accepted as being alternative acts. So a big part of it was, oh look, these kids are from AUB, they're spoiled brats, and they're ruining the language. And this is where the department, I think, really helped us most, is that being in design school meant really studying post-colonial theory. It meant understanding semiotics. It meant so much stuff that just made us so much better equipped at answering these questions. So if like a reporter would make the mistake of making sort of a generalizing statement like that, we would destroy them on the spot and feel like the most powerful people in the world. And that's how things got good, right? Reporters started seeing that we were actually talking about stuff that we could back up, that we were doing things the way we were because it was designed to be like that. It wasn't just an arbitrary thing that stumbled because, you know, 7 rich kids like Megadeth. And so 2010 happens, and we start writing our second EP, which is Hal Romancy. And we completely isolate ourselves. This is in the writing space in Hamdoun that we were writing in. And we stayed there for a month and a half, not talking to anyone, while I was trying to finish my thesis, which I failed.
Sorry.
So we completely isolate ourselves. We're all under so much stress, right? We're trying to get through AUB and our family lives and finish the CP on time because the only way, you know, we needed to finish at least 6 tracks so that we could go on to the next step, which wasn't actually recording the album, it was getting to play Byblos. And Byblos was the first time we played a major festival in Lebanon. And this is, you know, these are pictures from Byblos in 2010. Byblos was a really, really, really big deal for us. It was the first time we played a major stage. We were headlining in a huge festival with really respectable artists. I had seen Patti Smith there the year before, so it was really an honor to be there. And it was the first time we get to really sort of ask questions about how to design a stage. We were on a really tight budget, and we spent a good 3 months trying to find all these antique televisions, and we put them up on stage. All right. And then what's this? Right. So this is, after Byblos, we started touring a lot. And we started this habit of taking pictures with our audiences with a little cardboard that, has the place in date. And so in 2011, we used those tracks that we wrote for Byblos and we recorded our first album. Again, we made it a point to work with regional artists as much as we could. So all the photography that's in the album is done by this incredible photographer called George Aude. And Haig directed our video. I ended up doing the actual design for the album. And the cool thing here was we got to play with stage design a second time, but this time we took it a little bit further. And we actually worked on sort of trying to structure the stage differently. So we divided the musical performance into 2 sets, one that was supposed to be really intense, and one that was supposed to be a lot more sober and emotional and subtle. So we built 2 stages that are connected together with a ramp. This is the ramp during construction. And this is basically me running across the ramp while the guys are playing the softer music down there. Hal Romancy did really well, which was amazing because we got to keep doing exactly what we were doing, which was we moved on to Baalbeck. Baalbeck, I mean, if any of you guys know anything about the way the country's festivals work, Baalbeck is the most conservative festival in the country. They are, because the most conservative, also the most respected, but they tend to be a little safe with their artists. So them asking us to play there was really a big deal because it was the first time that we feel like we're sort of starting to get formally acknowledged, not as an alternative act, but as something that was genuinely something that had the potential to genuinely be respected.
And this was starting to reflect as well on the state of the music scene in Lebanon, which is, festivals are starting to take interest in local artists that might not be a huge commercial success, but might be a good artistic addition or an artistic choice to their festival. I mean, it was the first time Baalbeck asks a local Lebanese non-mainstream artist to participate, and they got attacked by the press for it a lot, as did we, but I think...
So the first time, the period building up to Baalbeck was extremely intense, again, for a lot of reasons. The amount of work it takes to actually write an album is not something that's very easy to describe, because it's not always sort of hours that you clock in and out of a music space or a recording studio or anything like that. It's actually, and as melodramatic as it sounds, just a really intense psychological process where for a few months you become different people and that helps you write. So trying to juggle your personal life around that, trying to juggle your careers. I mean, we had just graduated, a few months before, so all of us had these questions about whether or not it was even okay to stay in music. We weren't making any money. We had degrees in another discipline, and then we got invited to do this. And it was just, we needed to step things up a little bit. So again, we worked with Ayla. This is Ayla's later photo shoot, which is a bit more theatrical. Umayya was in Barcelona working, so she had to be replaced with a picture of her. And this is where we played, and it was completely incredible. It was really stressful, so I ended up getting laryngitis the day before. So my dad had to come up and give me a shot so that I could scream my way through the concert, and this is what the concert looked like. It was packed, it was really good, it was a lot of fun. But right afterwards, Andre left, and that was how we became 6. So Andre left to focus on architecture and working on his other businesses. And we went on to continue writing. So we wrote Raasu, which for all of us is sort of, how like everything came together and everything that we had, it was the first time we feel like we had actually learned a lot by being on the road, by writing music for so long, by being in the department, by everything. And we took all the stuff that we thought was important about our careers and we tried to put it in one album. So we really worked on the writing, and the writing, it was the first time we sort of look at writing the way we would at a design project, where we had a couple of tracks that were supposed to be extremely emotional, and we designed the music to work with that in a certain way. The tracks that were supposed to be political, we designed to work in a certain way. We questioned things like irony, like pastiche, like structure. And again, I did the design and made it a point to work with regional artists. So I got this really cool illustrator called Nur Flehan, who helped me out with some of the illustrations. And this is what the album looked like. So the album, the album is very much like the theme song, like a bunch of the songs in the CD, and the design works with the music in that sense, where it was basically supposed to reference something that was very common and seen, but then play with that a little bit. So it's made to look like an airline safety slip that's being literally choreographed, and that's basically what the album's about. At this point, we go to Montreal, we record the album, things are incredible, but then Umayya leaves, and this is Umayya leaving. And this was our concert in Montreal right after the concert, right after the recording, sorry. And now we're down to us. We're 5. The other 2 are in Zurich and London. Brahim is in Zurich working for Google, and Haig is getting a master's in something between art and architecture in London. No one really understands what the hell he's studying. And that's it.
Thank you. Any questions or?
Do you guys have any questions? Because that would make it easier to actually do this.
Aren't you going to show music?
No. Because it's awkward. Because I don't have it on my computer. I actually don't have it on my computer.
I can put it on my phone.
Don't you have clips on? For those who don't know you.
Yeah. Any other questions while it's being set up?
Sorry, some people don't know you.
It's my morning trip.
All this sound.
If you have questions in the meantime, whoever has questions.
You talked about what you've done, which is incredible. What you haven't said anything about is what you are intending to do next, which is what your admirers in the audience are anxious to hear.
What are we doing now? Right now, we're in the process of writing the next album, and in the process of getting the music widely distributed in Europe, properly in the Middle East, because these things are a bit complex when it comes to getting your music available to people not online or people who are not willing to pirate or download music illegally, which are not many in the Middle East, I have to say. But that's the plan, I think, for 2014.
Wasn't the DJ on the cover of the Rolling Stone a very good exposure?
It was alright.
We expected that not.
We've actually been very lucky with press. We've gotten very good press before. The Rolling Stone wasn't really sort of a make or break kind of thing. There's previous stuff that really helped us out.
So this song is from the last album. It's called Waqar. It was directed by excuse me, Shadi Yunus and the team called.
Oh, right. So the team was actually from Leo Burnett, Beirut, where I worked for a year. I worked at Leo Burnett for a year. Supposedly as an art director, but then when I was about to slice my wrists, they let me write jingles and songs for ads. But yeah, so the team from Leo Burnett ended up working on this video for us. The video's been doing really well. It won like a bunch of advertising awards. Here we go.
she wearing the floaters that you have on the cover?
What?
You know, on the CD cover.
Right, so,
I mean, this is obviously a commentary on.
Yeah.
But when I first saw it, I was like.
Right, so the floaters were actually we had been working on the design of the album with an incredible design studio, and things weren't really working out. And we tried it a couple of times, and we couldn't really sort of please as many people as possible. And we were away on tour, and we were in Tunis actually playing a concert, and there was a political assassination in Tunis, and the airport shuts down. And it was the middle of Ramadan, and we're in Tunis, and you can't drink, you can't do anything, you can't leave the hotel. It was completely disastrous. So when the airport finally opens up, we're on the flight back, and we're talking about the album art, and there was that slip in the flight, and it was Tunis Air, so it was disgustingly ugly. And so what? It was ugly. So there was. We were looking at the illustrations, and we thought it was really funny that basically, when you look at these things, the point of the stuff is to sort of inform you what to do in times of disaster, right? If you're inflating the thing, it means the plane is going down, you're probably going to die. And they always look so sober and calm and zen. And we thought that was really funny. And we were talking about the album, and we felt that that was very much exactly what the album is about. The song is about that, basically. A couple of the tracks on the album are about that, are about sort of being controlled to just, prepare to float when you know you're going to die. Oh, is that the question?
But I love the story.
It was an idea to have her wear it. And we thought the realism of the clip, which is basically, it looks like something out of 90s NBC where the band.
It looks like a Melhem Barakat video from the late 80s, essentially, which was the point.
Yeah. So we wanted to keep that reality kind of intact.
Okay.
A little bit.
Like it really does look like that with the tacky backdrops. It's like one camera movement, and basically the thing with these videos is that they always try to create a star, right? So if it's a Melhem Barakat song, you see Melhem Barakat and everyone else is inconsequential, and the band themselves are inconsequential, which is what happens with this video. The band actually appears for those 5 to 10 seconds, but past that, it's really just that girl sort of dancing, and that was the point essentially. What? No, screw it. You guys want to watch the rest of it?
Yeah.
than the beginning.
The music has changed. I don't know if melodic is
It's
necessarily the word, but I think,
more rhythmic and more
yeah, because we couldn't do it any other way back then.
so you
I always say this,
focus
it's
on like maturity or growth.
yeah, and spending a lot of time with each other, working around each other's egos and everything. But really, when we started, it was always an issue. There were so many people in the room, and we didn't know each other, so we tried to find one thing to like everyone would solve all the time.
It's also a question of technical ability. I mean, with a lot of things in design, when you learn a new technique, you kind of, you use your favorite color too much. And for this album, it was really trying to be very concise and very clear from beginning to end of what one song means. And so a lot of these songs are much calmer, simpler, at least rhythmically, than we had before.
Is that? I think it's more complex.
And for us,
I think there's more harmony.
It's more clear. You can see like every side go together. Really
And Hamid, you're not growling anymore.